All right. Hey, good morning, Bob. I'm so
Hey, good
excited.
morning.
I'm so excited to be here with you, and I want to hear lots of stuff about you because like I said, I looked up some stuff. I haven't really looked into your background, so I
I
want
wondered
you to.
where that hit came from
It was
on my website. That was you. Okay, great.
it was me. See, isn't that perfect? Get one
Yeah.
day, one at a time, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I did read. I'm really curious about it because comedians. I have to say, I'm in awe of comedians. Okay, I do things like acting and voiceover, not the same thing. Okay, to get
Mhm.
up on a stage, and because like my family, we all think we're funny, and we laugh through the most craziest, most horrible times. But I don't know if I could get up and like display it. So it's awesome. But I want to hear where you started because I read a little bit about that. Like, what
Oh
made
yeah.
you start?
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought that up because I actually met with a comedy writer who used to write for David Letterman. He wrote for Jay Leno, and he was telling me he never had the desire to do stand up. He was like, I don't know how you guys do it. And this guy is a prolific comedy writer, but just doesn't understand. So yeah, everybody has their own talents and where they're going. But I got my start in college. I did a stand up competition my junior year, and they were doing high school weekend, and so they were trying to have all these cool activities of and so they decided to have a stand-up competition. So I'd be like, hey, look at us, we're crazy, and it was a Christian college. And so the comedy had to be clean, and you actually had to perform it in front of a board first to make sure. And so I knew about it, but I all through my life people were telling me I should be a comedian, but I never wanted, because I thought you had to do it in bars, and I heard comedians' lives are pretty harsh and stuff, and so it was never something I really wanted to pursue. But the lady who was putting it on called me the night before, and she said, how come you didn't sign up? And I said, well, I know everybody tells me that I should be a comedian, but I just really don't have any desire. And she was very nice about it because I was pretty known for being cheap. And she goes, well, we know how frugal you are. She used the word frugal, which I thought was polite. And she was like, we thought the cash prize would have enticed you. And I was like, what? And I was like, I didn't know there was a cash prize. And so I said, well, is it too late? And she was like, no, we really want you. When they'd come up with the idea to have a stand-up competition, they actually thought that me and then a friend of mine named Mark, who was also really funny, would have signed up. And neither one of us signed up. And so they were kind of
Oh.
panicking that it wasn't. So anyway, I showed up. I asked them how many comics they wanted, and they said, well, we wanted 10, but with you, that'll be 9, that'll be enough. And I said, well, what if I wrote stuff for my roommate and let him do it? Would that work? And that'll give you 10. And she was like, yeah, that's cool. And so I wrote stuff for him, and I won, not because I was good, but everybody else was terrible. Um,
Oh, I don't believe
yeah,
that.
seriously, the guy before me had a big sombrero, and his whole act was going, "Oh, you shouldn't have sat on the front row. My sombrero might fall on you." That was his whole. Oh, it was just terrible. So I did some jokes about the Abilene Zoo. I did some jokes about student loans and stuff like that. And so I won, but my roommate got third place, and I was actually more excited about the fact that I wrote some stuff for him. And so I thought, because I was getting my degree in elementary ed, I was going to be a teacher, then I was going to be a principal, and then I was going to be a superintendent. Like I had my whole life mapped out, and I picked elementary ed because I already knew most of the alphabet, so I figured the classes would be easy. So that was my plan. And I thought, well, maybe like if I could write comedy, maybe I can write like sitcoms and stuff during the summers whenever I'm not teaching. So I was actually more excited about him winning. Well, anyway, then 2 years later, before I became a teacher, I wanted to see what it was like to make money. And so, because teachers just don't get paid what they should. And
Right.
so I was trying to get like a nest egg started up and all that. So I was doing photography. I was working for an old family friend of ours, and so I was doing photography in Dallas, and I was driving on like 635, and my pager went off. That'll probably tell listeners how old I am, but my pager went off, and it was area code 615, which at the time I didn't know what it was, but that's Nashville's area code.
Oh.
So I pulled over to a Cracker Barrel payphone, and I called this number, and this guy was like, hey, it's Rick Wooten, and I'd gone to school with him, and he was like, hey, I'm living in Nashville, and I'm road managing a Christian singer named Clay Cross, and we leave for tour in a couple of weeks, and Clay and I were talking that it'd be fun to have a comedian come out. And he was like, I saw you do that stand-up competition back in college. So do you want to go on tour with us?
Oh
And I
my
remember
God.
standing at a Cracker Barrel payphone, and I was so flippant about it because I didn't think comedy was going to be a career or anything. And I was like, how long's the tour? And they were like, it's 6 weeks, but we're probably going to make it longer. And I was like, okay. Like I was
Wow.
so flippant about it. And so I booked a $99 one-way flight to Nashville. I got off a plane and got onto a tour bus and went out on tour as a comedian. And I did stand up 3 times in my life. I did that stand-up competition. Then my girlfriend's, we went back to her hometown, and the youth minister asked me if I would do stand-up or just do like, 10 minutes of jokes and stuff for the youth group. So I did that. And then my fraternity had a banquet, like a Christmas banquet, and it was pretty expensive. And they told me if I did stand up, then I wouldn't have to pay for me and my date. So I did it just to get free tickets to the banquet. And that was it. And now all of a sudden I'm standing in front of like 1,000 people at night, every single night, doing
Oh my
stuff.
God. That's
Yeah, it was
amazing.
crazy.